sharing your stories and playing your songs on Graham's JFDI Show.
Again, you give me that feeling, yeah, again, you give me that feeling, yeah, again. I want you just to shout it out. Ain't giving up, we give it out. Shout it.
Well, there we go. A new little intro. We're just trying some new stuff here in the very basic interests of JFDI. Yeah, we're working on something else new, coming very soon. Anyway, listen, I'm really excited about this evening's guest, or this afternoon's guest, if you choose to be watching this at some other time or listening on Spotify. I'm excited for who I've got to introduce you to this evening. This episode of the JFDI podcast, I'm going to be speaking to somebody. I'm going to introduce you in literally a minute. But first of all, an introduction that I believe deserved. Okay, all right. I first met this evening's guest back in April when invited to a festival in Tarbert being run, the first ever wild medicine festival being run by Heal Scotland. So this evening we are going to be speaking to the founder of Heal Scotland, who started life as a hairdresser. Well, maybe not started life, but started a professional life as a hairdresser, who moved into the fitness industry, who took up nutritional healing, and then moved into the mindset space and has been helping people live healthier, happier lives, helping them to heal, and whose passion is letting go. She's not been given the nickname, self-appointed or otherwise, I don't know, but she'll tell us. Please give a very warm welcome to the JFDI podcast to Lilia, letitgo Sinclair. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm just doing brilliant. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, listen, thank you for being on, for coming on. I know when we spoke about it, because we throw the music in there, it always adds for me an additional kind of dynamic. But when I listen to the songs, I can occasionally maybe pick something out of the songs that I'm listening to add some additional depth to the questions. So we like to do it a little bit different. But no, I'm super excited to talk about your tunes that you've chosen, and learn a little bit more, and maybe for the thousands of followers now on Heal Scotland, maybe we get something, maybe we even get a wee insight into something that people don't know about you. Who knows? So shall we start right back? Shall we start with the tunes before we dive into anything? And just, I don't. You've given me them. Are they in any particular order, or shall we just go from the top?
No, not really. I mean, to narrow it down to 5 is quite difficult for me because obviously music is my life. I love it. So, and I've, and it's hooked to so many memories, obviously from the past. Because my nephew, when we were talking about it last night, he said, is there anything in the last 10 to 15 years? And I was like, no. Because all the kind of big iconic tunes for me were all about, your youth and all that excitement of going out and, big, huge sing-alongs and, anthems. Yeah. So.
And there's a few of them in there. The first banger bomb to drop, you've gone for Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen right from the start. So what's the story with this? Why this one?
Well, I just remember, I was astounded by it. I think like a lot of people were. It was so clever. It was so different. I just listened to it over and over again. And my brother is a huge Queen fan, so we would have lots of like massive sing-alongs. Freddie Mercury was key in our life. My brother had followed him around the UK and all his tours. We went to Wembley to see him, and yeah, he just, I suppose, there's something about Freddie Mercury and all the Queen guys actually that was quite freeing and brave and daring to be different, which I suppose really, and I didn't think about it at that then, but now that's something that I admire, somebody who is willing to be different and do different things. And how true the actual documentary was when the guy who turned down Bohemian Rhapsody because it wasn't 3 minutes and it was, it didn't fit the audio package that they do to all music nowadays. And then, of course, it just exploded. And I think, even my grandchildren can sing along to it. It's timeless.
Yeah, and like you say though, took a long time for it to actually become what it is now. I think time has done that for it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for singing along, regardless, I play a bit of guitar and I've always been a bit of a vocalist. So whatever party I would end up or wherever you would end up, you would always put that on and you would have everybody in the whole place
Yeah.
singing it. And I think that's really for me what music does is it unites people. People love to sing together. And I'm rubbish on the guitar. If 7-chord wonder, but I can bang out any tune and get a whole load of people singing together. And
Yeah.
I've done that whenever I've travelled in the world, and it's a real unifier.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned travel. Before your travel started at the time of let's say Bohemian Rhapsody, what sort of stuff was going on in your life at that point in time? How old were you? Without giving you I'm not asking you your age. I'm a gentleman.
No, I don't have any problem with how long I've been in this planet, 63 years. So yeah, I suppose just that that younger, you're kind of going. We were just talking about this yesterday, actually, how we had 2 cafes with jukeboxes. When we were younger, they were open till 10 at night. We had a community centre. We had dances. There was a lot of social things going on, certainly compared to what goes on in our community now. So I suppose it's just that almost that age of where you're starting to interact with the opposite sex, have fun, worrying about how you look, who do you fancy and all that kind of stuff. So it was it's a kind of exciting and terrifying time all at the same time. So yeah, and I was just, always listening to music. And also back then, it wasn't as easy just to get a tune. If you liked a tune, you had to sit with Luxembourg 208 and hope that it came on, or buy a record. You couldn't stream the way you did now. It was, or you had an old cassette, recorder that you would tape on, and so I was quite obsessed by that. And Top of the Pops, obviously. I wanted to listen to music all the time, but it was way more difficult back in the day. You'd get your record and you would just play over and over and over and over again. Yeah.
I remember knowing from listening to the radio that they would be playing a certain song the next day, or hearing it that something was coming, and be poised with one of those very basic tape recorders where you would record illegally off the radio.
Yes, exactly.
Just so that you could listen to it if you didn't have the record. But yes, how times have changed and how technology's changed, right?
Absolutely. My grandson was criticising my radio in the car because it didn't tell him who the artist was and what the song was. So there, he's 9. He's very used to just being able to access whatever and listen to an enormous variety, but also to know who it is and who's recording it and who's singing it and who's backing and all that stuff. So I think just in general, the whole level of information that we get now, not just from in terms of music, but any information or education, that the access is easily available now, and it just wasn't back then, which made it maybe that bit sweeter. Where you just enjoyed it so much because you couldn't literally have your headphones in listening to it all day.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it was. There's something about not being able to easily access. It does make the enjoyment factor just that little bit more, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's, we're all attracted to music, different musics for all of us, obviously. But I think with the festival, my friends over in Malta invited me to speak at a festival. And I first of all thought it was a kind of funny place. But then when I got there, I realised, no, this is where the people that I want to talk to are at. They're at festivals. I love festivals. And that's when I thought, this has got to be a fun way to bring this information to people without the judgy, you're living it all wrong, you shouldn't be doing all these things. And, it's actually no, but here's what you could do to enhance this. And here's what music does, and sound healing. We're starting to recognise now the incredible power of sound for healing. And I think innately we all know that. If you were sad, if you get dumped, there would be a tune that you would play.
Yeah.
That would, or if you're getting ready to go out on a Saturday night or a Friday night or whatever night, certain tunes you would play. We know we were automatically using music to help elicit emotion, and that's what it does. And it's, now it's free. And I love that, the Spotify guys, the ones that started the idea, they said all music should be free for all of us to listen to. And, I firmly love
Could
that.
not agree more. Could not agree more. So I'd listed off a number of different areas that you've worked in, so you've kind of headed in the certainly towards that direction of well-being. But can you think of a pivotal moment in your life that kind of sparked that fire within to create Heal Scotland, and how that sort of shaped your mission? The mission, whilst you're thinking about that, and I'll just say that mission, which I love, and I was watching again just to remind myself, this mission to create a movement of people, which I then thought about at this point, that bit's already done, right? That movement of people is already there and growing, which is amazing. And with that mission to help change the trajectory of the health picture in Scotland, which is fantastic. So is there a moment that you can think of that sparked, right, this is what I'm going to do? Where did that come from?
Well, there was a few things that happened, primarily people that I loved getting sick. And, as I started to, my aunt, I was 26 when my aunt died of cancer. And I remember thinking, she's eating the wrong foods. Now, I had no education in nutrition at that time, so I really had no idea. I was a fitness instructor and aerobics teacher already, so I was very big into health and fitness, but I thought that health really was about exercise and food, like I think a lot of people did back in the day. And then, of course, my best friend's daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, and that sent me down a very dark road of understanding that children can become terminally ill, and how do we manage that? And it went on a path of intense fear relief, and down and the internet was just kind of coming around then. We're talking 30 years ago. You couldn't access the information that you can access now. You literally had to believe everything you were told by the doctor. And at that point I did. And the specialists, and in fairness, that was all that they knew about as well. This was the way we do it. This is the name of the disease that your body has, and this is what we do to treat it. It's a package. And when I went to see Joanna down in Bristol when she was having a bone marrow transplant, this very loud voice thought, I don't know. I was standing outside, she was in isolation, and her hair had been shaved off and her face was all swollen with steroids. And this thought came through me, or this voice, I don't know. In 30 to 40 years' time, we'll be appalled that we did this to children. There has to be a better way. There's a better way. And I did think to myself, like, where did that come from? Because up until that moment, I had no idea there was another way. So then I started asking myself the two questions. Why would your immune system let you down so badly at such a young age? Why? And then how can you heal without causing, because inevitably Joanna died of the damage done to her lungs by the treatment. And, that was the way it had to be at that time. I'm not criticising anyone, where everybody did their best, but it was a horrendous 12 years from when she was diagnosed to when she died at 27. And she did a phenomenal, I have very different spiritual beliefs now, because I had to really examine why was I so scared Why was I in so much pain? Because one, I didn't want her to die, and two, but then I was like, well, what is death anyway? And two, I didn't want her to suffer. So, and the fear, that the suffering was all the fear around all the words, all the concepts around the body, etc. So I thought, well, I need to investigate this thing we call death. What even is that? Because we're all going there, let's face it.
Yeah.
My friend bought me the Celestine Prophecy to try and help me make sense. That was a pivotal change in my life. And I started to think, right, well, what if we're all actors here on this stage called life? And maybe if there was an element of choice involved in this. Now, this is the way I came to terms with it, that we're all playing roles and we've chosen them at some level. And that helped me move out the victim helplessness. And I started to see it, right, okay, well, if I did choose this role, what have I to do with this information? And, I left school when I was 16. I thought the education system was just a crock. My dad was a scientist. I come from a long family of teachers and academically clever people. My mum was a hairdresser and she looked after everybody in our scheme. We used to call them schemes. I think they call them estates now. So I had a real good balance of how to live in a community and care for people, and a sort of scientific, mathematical understanding in my genes. So that's kind of stood me in good stead to use the left and the right brain, if you like, to look at our situation and all this stuff. People always say to me, do you not wish you knew all this when Joanna was alive? The simple answer to that is I would not know any of this if Joanna hadn't gone through that experience, because I wouldn't have been interested. Like, these things usually you don't look at until it hits your heart and affects you personally. So then I can't really remember the day, but I do remember I was with my friend Jane Wright, and I was telling her, I was like, my son and I had set up a gym in Glasgow, and we knew already that Scotland's health picture was dismal, and poverty is intrinsically linked to poor health, and poor health goes with poor wealth. And I just was like, the more I learned, the more I thought, this information should be out. People should know about this. This is actually quite exciting. And really, if you understand quantum physics and that we all live in a quantum soup, i.e. we are entangled, we are entwined, we are connected at whatever level you see, you cannot have an underclass of people who are kept down. Because you cannot simply be free and happy knowing that, a million of your people are living in trauma and abuse and fear and addiction. And we have the knowledge and the understanding of how abuse impacts the body, and why addiction comes in, and we criminalize a lot of that, and we've stigmatized people. I just spent a weekend down with Russell Brand. He had at his festival, he had a recovery tent there with meat running all day, and I'm like, this is the way to do it. Inclusive, not pointing the finger and judging, because we're all works in progress. We've all got our dark sides, we've all got our triggers, we've all got our past, we've all got our limitations, and what we don't do in our culture is pull together. And my son said, why did you just keep it to Scotland? Here was my logic. There's only 5.5 million, give or take, of us. And if we can get under that national pride and realise that, right, whether we've been kept down deliberately or not, it doesn't even matter. People have been disempowered, and they are not being given the right information to be empowered and strong and healthy. And, you can't give people the fish. We know that. You need to teach them how to fish. Now, there's an element of ownership comes into that, where people have to go, right, okay, we need to own our power and we need to take part in our communities. We've got this nanny state, the government should fix it. Take a look around at the mess, the embarrassment our country has become. It is shocking. I've just spent the weekend in Glasgow talking to a taxi driver, the most expensive place to charge your electric car in the UK, Glasgow. What?
Yeah.
Going outside my pal's house, £4 an hour. I was just like, are they trying to kill our city? Well, even if they're not trying, whether it's deliberate or non-deliberate, it's happening. And really, we the people, we've taking our eye off the ball, and it's one of the laws of unintended consequences. When people are not held accountable, they run amok. We saw through COVID the corruption, the greed, and the need for power is just gone beyond a joke. And we, the people with our health and our wealth, need to stand up and own. And that's going to take a bit of responsibility and a wee bit of work. People don't want to change. Nobody would love it more than me that there was a pill to fix me, party my life away, which I did a lot of, and then just give me a pill and I'm fine again. I would love that. It's not the way it is. So this idea came through me, I would say. It's not something that, I sat down and thought, oh, what will I do with the rest of my life? It was just like, there's a need here. There's a gap in the market, if you like. And I mean the social conscious market, where people are not being given the right information. Now, you can say it's online. Anybody can research the way I did, self-directed learning. But the reality is most people are paying mortgages, struggling with young kids and all the issues that they're having right now, maybe struggling with their own health, struggling with the neighbours, and because we've never been learned to communicate and live in harmonious communities because we're competing instead of collaborating. And then you're actually saying, oh, by the way, you've got a terminal disease. It's madness, absolute madness. And it can be fixed. All we have to do is a shift in our perception. And I really, they shut the world down in a week. We can change this if enough of us want to change it, because our children are getting sick, grandchildren are getting sick, the food chain's being destroyed, the topsoil. Look at the land that we have. Our indigenous food, mackerel, salmon, trout, herring, it's the best brain food in the world. Gooseberries, raspberries, brambles, all grown wild in the summer. With potatoes, we've got lots of good quality starchy veg. Our animals are probably the most humane farming, some of it in the world. So we have everything here, but what happens is we export it all. And we Mars bars. And the cheap food, Vandana Shiva, I heard her speaking at the Russell Brand. What a woman, taking on Bill Gates, making food, fake food in a lab, genetically modifying seeds. Our bodies don't recognise that. No. We are nature, we're part of it. We know that GMOs are causing havoc to health. Why are we letting that man, not even elected, dictate our food chain? And we are in a position, I believe, in Scotland to change that. It's already happening, like you said. It's happening already. Organic farms, permaculture, biodynamic, community gardens, land reform has to happen. Nobody owns the land. We all own the land. And that's a very emotive subject, obviously, if you own a lot of it. But we need the land. I was up in Linbreck Croft last week. These two girls, you should get them on your podcast, actually. They're amazing. How they're working with the animals and the land, and how the land is given this treasure chest of medicine. My friend Claire, who co-wrote the book with me, she's the medical herbalist. She just came round the corner and there's all these wild, she said, this is a medicine chest right here, because the land, they're working in this symbiotic relationship with the land. I mean, it's just magical to see. So all this good stuff's already happening in Scotland, but there's a lot of people obviously too busy, too tired, too sick to know or see about it. And that's why we need a place. We need a place where you can have a choice. If you want to go into the system and have the treatments, fantastic, if that works for you. But if you're thinking, no, I don't want these treatments, I would rather understand my body, learn what it's communicating to me, and make an attempt to heal and rebalance my own ecosystem and my own biofield, then we need a place where people can come and be supported in that journey. We don't have a choice right now. You have one way.
Yeah, you've answered about two other questions in that answer, which is brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to just touch on, and I need to ask you about. Look, you mentioned about this already happening, and a lot of very smart people doing smart things, and there are another. We spoke about the give a man a fish, but teach him how to fish. There are those people that will listen. There's those that won't or aren't ready yet, and there are some that will never listen. For those people that might want to support positive change, but they don't know how to get involved. What's your advice that kind of, and you mentioned about taking responsibility and that own personal accountability, what would you advise in terms of something that it crosses all walks of life, specifically, you know, that people can apply even when, and you touched on this, when they have limited time or limited resources?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because I'm all about inclusivity, and that's what I love about foraging. It's free. And, you know, if we're talking about Healing Scotland and I'm giving out information, it's always a bone of contention that, you know, that will that cost that amount of money? Well, yes, it does, but we're doing a load of other things that have no cost or a spend shift. And I understand, until we can get under the economics, which we have to do, because Neil McEnroy, who was teaching us about community wealth building, said, you know, we're not going to heal Scotland without looking at the economics. And a big part of that is about the flow of wealth. And a big part of that is spending within your community and keeping the money in your community. It's not rocket science, you know. And we were talking about this last night. I can go into Oban and do a shop for half the price that I can do in our local shop. And I do, when it's just for me, I'll just go into the local shop. But if I've got a retreat with 20 people for 5 days, the cost comes into it. Because if I use our local shop, I would have to pass that cost on to my clients. So, you know, that's an issue that we have to address. So it's the chicken and the egg, really, isn't it? I think you the task could be so massive you get overwhelmed and you don't do anything. Or you can go, right, I am going to put more vegetables into my diet and I'm going to join the juice and smoothie challenge, right? And for my kids. So you can get your carrots where from? Aldi's or Lidl's, or where, you know, if they're going just about to go out a date, you know, you can then do it cheaply, soak them in baking soda or apple cider vinegar. You can get bogged down in the detail. It's not organic, it's not this. You know, if you're a details person, your head will explode worrying about that. Just do something that you can do. You can also grow things in your own house, your salad leaves, to get a diversity. Or you can go on a foraging course, and you get great apps now. You can pick some of the greens from your local park or from, you know, your local forest, depending on where you live. So it's choosing one thing that you can do. You can drink more water. You can go to your bed and sleep with a circadian rhythm. There's a whole load of things you can do that are free. Your basics. We're always looking for this, you know, somebody in a laboratory somewhere with a microscope that's coming up with the answer. No, then, you know, if you look at your digestive system like the barrier reef, and what happens is when the barrier reef, if it gets too hot, if the sun's shining relentlessly, it changes the temperature, and that changes what grows there and what can thrive there. And our digestive system is exactly the same. So when your pH and when there's too much heat in the body, inflammation, which we know is a huge problem, caused usually by shitty sugars and carbohydrates. So cut them out your diet. When there's a heat in there, you create an environment for parasites, worms, bugs, all sorts of things. So in order to change that environment, you need to wash through plenty of water. You need to move. You need to think great thoughts. You need to learn what you're living in.
Yeah.
You know, it's an ecosystem. There's many microbes as there are cells. You know, we're a living, breathing entity. And then add in the electromagnetic side of the body, which has got amazing new technology to be able to look at. Then you understand when you feel love, when you feel excited, your electromagnetic field changes, and you literally impact the morphogenic field, you know, around in your home, in your workplace, you know, everywhere. So, you know, taking responsibility for what we're saying, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're perceiving, that's quite a new thing to think about in the West. You know, how are we affecting ourselves? If I bitch about you, guess whose body gets poisoned?
Yeah.
If I'm bringing you down to make me feel better, and I'm judging, you know, as there's so much judgment, even in the spiritual world, you see it's breath work. I'm a better breathwork instructor than you know. And you're just like, oh my God, give us peace. Teach people to breathe. That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Help them understand the power right under their nose for changing their own chemistry.
Yeah.
You know, it's exciting, but then we go back to the old thing, like he does it better, or she does it better, or he's doing it the wrong way, and she's doing it, and it's like, oh no, 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 no. Come on.
Yeah.
Away from that, the big, we have to, and that's the Heal Scotland thing, is we focus on what it is we want, we need people to learn and to do. And you know, we need people teaching breathwork all over the country, in the schools, in the old folks' homes. You know what I mean? It has to be in your house. Make it understand the power of changing your own chemistry, of being an alchemist. You know, I was 60 before I really understood the power of breath. I mean, that's outrageous.
I was just going to ask, when did you start to feel the benefits and kind of embrace, you know, breath work yourself?
Well, you know, when we went into the first community, I bought a Wim Hof book years ago before, you know, to try and learn it myself. I'd, you know, looked a little bit. There wasn't as much on the internet then. You're probably talking 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I also intuitively understood I've always loved the sea. If I get cold, I felt better. So that was way before, you know, I was kind of the talk of the steamy going into the sea in January sort of thing, because nobody else was really doing it around here then. So I started to feel the benefits of that. But I've always been into fitness. I've always understood that I have a big impact over my health and well-being.
Yeah.
And I don't think breathwork's the only key at all. I think it's a brilliant one, and it's free. And you can learn it online. I just did a brilliant one online this morning that I just discovered had an amazing, beautiful experience. So, you know, that's just something I want people to know. Who they learn it from is irrelevant to me. You know, there's a whole load of stuff about safety. And of course, we understand you don't go in the cold water and you don't hyperventilate in the cold water. Everybody, I would have thought, knew that. Certainly the Wim Hof method does not recommend that at all. They're very safety conscious. But, you know, the reality is if you just lie down and do your breath work, nothing bad's going to happen. You're not going to breathe yourself to death.
No.
If you like the feeling or the tingling, then just don't do it. You know, we like to complicate everything. But primarily that's about, well, come to me and I'll teach you because, you know, I'm so much superior than you. And it's like, no, you can learn it on YouTube. Go to a class, go to a Wim Hof workshop, fundamentals workshop, do it as a collective. There's no better feeling in the world. That breath work we did in the Marquee in Tarbert, people are still talking about that. There's something about doing things collectively as humans. We get an added benefit. Same with letting go. When we're all doing it together, we get a better result, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's amazing that when I was helping out one of my friends with his first fundamentals workshop down in the Lake District at the weekend, and one of the guys one of the participants in the workshop, he came up to me in a break and he said that was totally different to any of the sessions that I've done myself. He says, and I didn't feel like I've done anything particularly different. And this is what I told him, and I used the World Medicine Festival in Tarbert as an example. When that collective consciousness, that energy, when there are more people breathing together, and he said honestly, he said it was quite different. He said I had almost a bit of a spiritual moment, and I said this is just the tip of the iceberg, really. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, I do, as you know, a huge amount of breath work. And I've done a huge amount of Wim Hof because I still think he's, you know, what a gift he's given to the world to get this message out. I'm a huge fan. He was amazing at the Russell Brand Festival. The buzz was unbelievable. But yeah, and it wasn't a hardcore session you guys did. I think it was 4 rounds. Was it
4 rounds.
And it was, you know, and then I was the same. I was like, my God, I know that if I was lying in my bed upstairs, I wouldn't have got that. I got that because, well, it was beautiful seeing you guys all in kilts and, you know, going round and, but it was the collective energy when we pull together and support each other. And this is the thing that I keep explaining about why it's important to understand the quantum physics around us. When we pull together, and, you know, if you look around the world, the people that are really, really successful, it's because they pull together.
Yeah.
Do it on your own. I can't heal Scotland on my own. this idea's come through me. I can inspire people to help themselves. Yes, I have a natural gift for that, it seems. But this is not about me. This is about getting information that should be in our schools, that should be in our playgroups, our nurseries, that should be in our communities, that should be in our how we look after our old people. You know, we've got 15,000 children in care.
Yeah.
And it's in a country our size. We currently have 92 of our care homes under investigation for abuse. What is going on? We have anxiety levels, highest suicide rates in the UK for young men. Something is very, very wrong. And we need, these goons in government are not going to fix it.
No, they are not.
People need to fix it. And we can only do that if we genuinely pull together and collaborate and put your egos to the side. And that's what you guys did at our festival. I'll be forever grateful for that experience. Egos went to the side. It wasn't like, you going to him, you going to him. It was none of that. It was like, Heal Scotland was the thing. Let's show the people how good they can feel. And that's what happened. And people were still talking about it. Yeah. And you imagine we can replicate that. We're going to be in Skye as well next year. And bringing the people, the islands are very vulnerable. They can't access what we can access on the mainland as easily. And, there's all sorts of different demographic issues when you live in more rural communities. But we know how to fix it. We've got all the science. We don't need any more science. Back to communities and altruism and looking after each other and sharing, without an agenda. That's the thing. We have to learn to share and give back, because we all know every single network, BNI network, Givers Gain. It's in the 12-step program, give back, be of service. It's heart math of showing you have a much greater resonance when you give than when you get. It's a thing. Give and give without an agenda. And if we can give back to our brothers and sisters on this land, Heal Scotland's not just about Scotland. But my idea was that if we can focus in on Scotland and get under that national pride, that spirit that we used to have, that's been medicated down, that's a whole other podcast. If we can get under that spirit and we can really generate, they've been ripping the piss out of us for years, maybe a lot longer than that. And I think when people truly understand that they are being absolutely kept down for money and for power, maybe they'll break through and understand, oh my God, what are we doing? We don't need any of these things they've told us we need. None of it. It's all here.
And I think that a lot of really interesting points in there, especially in and around collaboration and around sharing, giving back. And I've got a couple of questions on that. But before that, I want to come to your next song.
Okay.
Because you've chosen an artist. So the song is Life on Mars by David Bowie, an artist who in his time and in his own inimitable style was often very outspoken, changed, the direction of travel so many times, and proved an inspiration to artists and people alike. But that's just my thoughts on Bowie. Why did we get Life on Mars?
Well, I don't know, but I do remember lying with my radio, because you had to tune into 208 and, just taken away with that song. I suppose a bit like Freddie Mercury, he was very unique. And they had a platform, they had courage, they had creativity like we'd never really seen before, to be honest. Yeah. And again, because I could have put a few of his songs on because I'm still a huge fan and I still listen to it. But that's the one tune that as soon as you hear it, it just takes me to that place. And maybe it is the otherworldliness, life on Mars. Yeah.
And that's really interesting when you say that, otherworldly, because what you've done in founding an organization, it requires tremendous dedication, that creativity, but also resilience as well. And I'm going to flip. We've talked about some of the successes and some of the great things that Heal Scotland's been doing, but Can you share perhaps a particularly challenging obstacle that you've faced fairly early on in the journey with Heal Scotland, and how you tackled it?
Well, to be honest, it's not really been an issue in Heal Scotland because I did my learning when my son and I had Heaven Health Boutique in the city centre,
Yeah.
where we genuinely had a phenomenal product. We specialised in vibration training. We taught people to let go, and we gave them really good nutrition advice. And we realised that, you know, people still, you kind of go, well, you want to lose some weight, do that, eat that, let go of that, and it'll happen. But of
Yeah.
course, it's not as simple as that. So I suppose, and there was a lot of disappointments and a lot of the, you know, kind of, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Try to sell health to Scotland, Scottish people's not a good business idea at all. So when it comes to Heal Scotland, I thought, why is this? Because I can't ignore what comes through me.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, why me? Because I really feel that it's me that's to lead it or to set it up in motion anyway. And I think it's because yes, I am my age and I'm willing to speak out. I'm willing to speak my truth, and that gets you annihilated in Facebook. And if you're talking against paradigms that people believe in, you have to be prepared. Now, I always try to do it as kindly as possible because in my private work, I usually work with women that have been diagnosed terminal. And they've usually had all the treatment and then they've been told there's nothing else they can do, and then they come to me. So these treatments have not worked for these people, and a lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's a harsh reality of the truth. So, and I know that they're looking at it now, you know, they're looking at why it works for some people and why it doesn't work for others. But if you dare to question the paradigm, the vaccine program, COVID, I get ostracized pretty much from my whole family because of my views, because I've been down the big pharma rabbit hole for a long, long time. I did not trust them for a second when this happened. And that was very controversial, especially when it was like, don't be a fanny, save your granny. You know, like really, when I was like, I wouldn't wear a mask. I was just appalled at what the government were doing. And I had to wait a long time, you know, for people to realise that maybe I wasn't actually that crazy, that I saw something that they didn't see. So that wasn't particularly easy. Well, that's maybe not true, because it was just so obvious to me. I couldn't believe, and I still can't believe, what people will capitulate to because they're scared.
Yeah.
So that's, I suppose I've always been a bit of a you know, like, what do they know? Matt Hancock telling me what to do. Are you having a laugh? Really? You know, I don't have any respect for pretty much any politician anymore. I think they're all bought and paid for by big pharma. That's where all the money is. You can't trust the science anymore. It's not there's nothing wrong with science. It's fantastic. But not when it's bought and paid for, you know, with an agenda.
Yeah.
Because obviously I just watched a brilliant podcast with Joe Rogan and Dr. Aseem Malhotra yesterday. And just talking about all of that, how they want you in statins for life, you know, all these, they make a fortune by putting you in drugs. And people trust, you know. I've been staying and helping my aunt out a bit, and sometimes when she was really unwell, I had to put the drugs in her mouth. It feels wrong to me at every level to be putting all that stuff in your body. But it's a real culture, and it's a real addiction for a lot of us because we want to be fixed and we believe the doctor can fix us. And I'm sorry, they can assist maybe at times, but for the chronic degenerative disease that we have, that's the real pandemic, and no pill can fix it. It's all going to be about your lifestyle change and understanding about your ecosystem, your bioterrain and your biofield. So that's the bad news. It's going to be up to you.
But I think that's the, perhaps to some people, you know, a harsh, no pun intended, pill to swallow, but it's the truth. If we don't start with ourselves, then, you know, nobody else is going to do it for us. Let's say we're all going to die. We get to choose how we live our life and what we put in here and here, here and here. So we can take control. Yeah. I along the journey, what would you say is in your position as a leader, and by the way, I believe quite a visionary leader, because like if you say that the problem has been identified, and it's, as you mentioned, going to take something bigger and different to what we've got at the moment, because clearly it's shown for a number of years that doesn't work. Along the journey so far, is there anything that you could that obviously there's been a lot of lessons learned, a lot of insights from what you've done. What would you say is the most unexpected lesson that you've learned through the Heal Scotland journey, and how it's, I guess, how it's influenced your approach?
What has happened is that people come to me all the time, say, what can I do to help? And that's quite challenging. It has been quite challenging for me, because primarily I would just say, share the events and spread the word, share the information, tell people about it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, is getting the word out. But what's happened recently is women have come towards me and said, "What, you need to do this." And I like that. You know, I completely out of the blue last week, a woman came up to me and she said, what can I do to help? I said, well, get me Bob Dylan's £4 million mansion, because we need a place to take people. She sent me a proposal that she's got, talking about sending to this guy, laid it all out. And I was like, wow. And that's happened to me maybe 3 times. It's all been women, I have to say. 3 amazing women that I've seen. I can't do it all myself. I'm absolutely aware of that. That I've seen it from a different angle and saying, who's dealing with this for you? I'm like, well, you come on the board. And, you know, if you have the skills that can help spread this word, we need, you know, there's a lot of tech. I've got a girl coming on, my friend Kirsten, who's did all the branding, etc. She's actually going to come on 2.5 days a week. It's going to be a game changer, because we want to be the information site where if you get diagnosed, you can go and you can get all the information you need for free. I'm looking now as well, because I have got a couple of clients right now who are refusing chemo. And that's not something I'm recommending to anybody. If you decide to refuse chemo, come and talk to me, but I am not helping you make that decision. That's got to be about you, right? But I have 2 people that have had make that decision, and I'm like, they need a place to go. They need to have a place they can come and learn about their body. They've been terrified by the system. But there's something in their intuition that's saying, no, I'm not doing that. We don't have a choice right now. You've got that or nothing. And when you go into the system, you get phenomenal support. But see, if you decide to go it alone, you've got all the system saying you're an idiot, and possibly most of your family as well. So for people that are really listening to their intuition and choosing the road less travelled, one of the big reasons they'll not succeed is because they do not have the strong social support network and the support that you would have if you choose the treatments. And that's something we in Scotland have to change, and we can change. Now, I don't get to decide who lives or dies. I can help people live in their own truth and learn about the body and the magnificence of this energy system that we've been told we're powerless over. There's the biggest con ever. It's just hilarious that anybody still believes it, to me, you know. But we've got a lot of work to do in the education and inspiration and information side to really get people engaged and go, well, what if I was powerful? What if I could heal myself?
Yeah. Asking
that question, what would it take? Rather than just going into the fear system. And you know, the reality is, whether you choose to, you know, hold hands with the system and take, maybe some people are taking chemo now and not taking surgery, and some people, you know, some people are just mixing and matching because of their own level of experience and understanding. Some people are going it alone, and some people are mixing and matching, and some people are happy to put themselves in the hands of the allopathic experts. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we need to be able to discuss the reality of it. You know, my mum ended up with Alzheimer's, and it tells you categorically it was because of the chemo she had when she was 79. You know, so let's be honest about that. And the doctors know that. They're now treating with vitamin D and fish oils, because they know it can be a side effect of chemo in later life. Whether I don't know really what all, but we need to get all this out from under the carpet and be telling the truth, the reality, and understand. And we have to have a place to go. If you are not in the intensive care emergency, then you're back out in your home. You know, there is nowhere for people to convalesce now. We need a place, a sanctuary where people can come and go, especially when they've got young children. come with their children and be looked after and supported and held during that time until they can stand on their own 2 feet. And we just don't have that. Unless you've got a lot of this, even if you have got a lot of this, you would have to move out the UK to get it. It's ludicrous. It really is ludicrous.
Yes, it certainly is. Where do we go next? You mentioned about truth, about helping people to live their truth, and I guess a lot of that comes down to I'm going to say your nickname, the Let It Go. Tell me a little bit about, because I guess that, we've spoken a little bit about the journey, but what was it about letting go that that gave you I guess the freedom, and how important you believe that is for other people to help them live their truth?
Well, to me, letting go is the key, the secret. And I don't mean the secret as in law of attraction. When I went to Sedona to learn the Sedona method, which was my first letting go technique, I witnessed what I thought to be miracles. I had no idea that you can let go of negative feelings, pain, suffering and pain. I had no idea that I thought I was a victim of my emotions, and then I realised I was the master of them. And when I went back and did my level 2 and the 9-day intensive, I had a breakthrough spiritual experience where I saw had this incredible blissful, and I thought, and I started laughing so hard. Me and this other guy, we both had the same experience at the same time, because that's very often what happens. Joe Dispenza's work shows that letting go is a form of meditation, really. So when you're in that process 14 hours a day, you will experience something pretty spectacular. And that's when I was like, oh my God, how could I have been so stupid to take on all these labels and concepts given to me by well-meaning and not so well-meaning others. And that's when I came back very excited to teach everybody about it. But of course, this is 15 years ago. It's far too. I was again seen as a bit of a nut job. But
and
now,
there's been, since then, you started with the Sedona method, but there's I think about a dozen other kind of techniques that you use at the moment. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of them?
Yeah, I teach 13 different ways of letting go. I'm not going to go and name them all now because it doesn't really matter. They all work.
Yeah.
What humans tend to buy into is when they get a very visceral experience, i.e. you feel less stressed. Yeah. And EFT is a great way for doing that very, very quickly. The thing with the Sedona method is you don't always feel it. You have to trust it. Sometimes you feel it. Usually you feel it, but sometimes you'll be letting go of things and it'll be weeks and sometimes months later that you realise, oh, that doesn't affect me anymore. So I think The Invisible, which I think is going to be my next book, The Invisible World. There's so many things that we cannot see. We're completely dictated by our eyes, and I think that's obvious with all the Botox and surgeries that we're doing right now. We actually think what we see is what's real, when in actual fact there's so much more going on. And healing is, in general, an invisible process. And trusting that your body is healing, which is what it's trying to do every minute of every day, if you stop tormenting it and poisoning it, that's invisible as well, but we don't even trust. We know, you cut yourself, your body heals itself. So we know that at some level, but somewhere along the line and some age along the line, it's like, well, now that I'm that age, I won't heal. Now that I've got this label's more serious, I won't heal. It's rubbish, absolute rubbish. It's all concepts, again, whether it's deliberate or not, to keep us in fear of the body. It doesn't matter. That's what's been created. A fear of the body, a complete lack of trust in your intuition and your inner intelligence. And this is the thing about healing that we believe at Heal Scotland, is that it's different for everyone. And nobody wants to hear that, right? What will I eat? What exercise will I do? But, people need very black and white direction and instructions when it comes to healing, because if not, healing's the same as dieting, by the way. If you've ever had to diet, it's the same thing. You're trying to eat things that you don't normally eat, or you're trying not to eat things that you normally eat. And what people do is you get a very visual, I've lost weight. And as soon as you get to the weight that you've lost, you start eating all the foods that you made you fat again. We know that that it's the change, the neural pathways, the reprogram, the neuroscience of change. But it's a couple of years it's going to take to train and to train and to train your body into believing and seeing, because you're changing your perception, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same with healing. It's not, you don't get better in 5 days. You don't rewire your brain in 5 days. Can that happen? Perhaps with meditation and breath work, things can, we can override the synapses. That's a whole other conversation as well. But yeah, but in general, for most of us, to really engage and initiate change in the brain, it's going to take practice and time and repetition and patience.
Yeah,
All of these things.
patience and believing, and having faith, which probably leads brilliantly on to your next song choice. Talking about the journey, you've gone for "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey.
Oh, I just love his vocals, man. He's just what a absolutely fantastic singer he is. And yeah, and I think that's one I'll always pull out at a party as well. The message,
Karaoke special.
I think particularly now, people say to me, how do you stay motivated? How do you not get worn down? And the answer to that is because of what my son and I did in the gym. We did get worn down, and now I realise, that you just need to keep planting seeds, and not expect to see the whole tree. The chances are I'll be long gone before a lot of the stuff. People, Scotland has got the best health picture in the world, but maybe not, because I do know that just if we can get to the critical mass, it'll just happen. And who knows? Always, because of my deep immersion and letting go techniques, I know that possibility and potential is there in the field, and we have to sail towards that rather than the negative side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that. It's a constant in life is change, and it's they say, isn't it? It's the only inevitable. It's the only constant is change.
Well, I think, I don't think any of us could have foreseen what happened with COVID. I certainly, I knew that things were going to change because obviously we were out of control. But and I think even now, when I'm planning for next year, I know I'm just planning, but none of it might ever happen. You just do not know.
Yeah.
But you're here, play the game, enjoy it, think good thoughts, hang around with other great, amazing people that are doing amazing stuff, taking action, and have fun. We take life far too seriously now, and it's almost like every single thing that we enjoy, they tell us not to do. And in actual fact, what we really see now, particularly with the technology we have at Barmolloch Farm, is that an odd bar of chocolate and a cigar on a Saturday night, it's actually, your body can cope with that fine. The biggest problem for the body is all the viruses and the parasites and the lack of nutrition, and that's all coming from the way we've been governed and the rules and the regulations of big tech, and the fact that our food, to grow a carrot, which is a superfood, a carrot's a superfood, is actually dearer than to get a burger out at McDonald's. That's what's wrong. It's not us.
Yeah,
We've been coerced. We need to
yeah. I've got a question here, very, very much related to that, in terms of the storytelling, and communication strategies adopted within Heal Scotland. What strategies have you found effective in encouraging and more importantly inspiring people to play their part?
It's funnily enough, crack from the canal, banter from the burn. I've not been doing that quite as much just because of where I'm staying, and so people like that, and the people that I've never met know me from that. I didn't realise so many people were watching it. Just a couple of minutes of daily musings or whatever. And certainly I did a lot of lives during lockdowns, and it was really nice when people come up to me and said how much that had helped them. And I can do a lot more of that. I'm just looking at the best use of my time and place. We have this technology that I'm really aware I want to get out to people in the country. We need to be setting up. We need healing centres all over the place. how that's, how that can work and how we can engage the people that are like Cormac Russell's work. What is strong in your community? There's people doing amazing stuff. What I want with Heal Scotland is to give them a platform and to raise them up and bring them into a like-minded team. So, really helping them from a business perspective and marketing strategy, and giving them, the more people we have in our platform, the greater it's going to be for members of Heal Scotland. And then it means if you're running a retreat, people can come on the site and find where you are and what's going on, and it's a win-win for everyone. We help you and you help us, and that's the true collaboration that we can really give that to each other without any fear, without any, what if he goes to your retreat instead of mine? No. It's an abundance game, and we need to believe in abundance, and the more that we give, the more that we will get in really unexpected ways. Yeah. So the live videos seem to be one of the biggies. And, the energy we created around the festival was, when we looked at the stats around the site, etc. But, like everybody, I'm kind of doing this a lot of the time myself. Kirsten's working in the background part-time, a few hours a week. So that's something that, I wanted to keep it, that it's a true volunteer. I don't take a wage out of it. There's all my stuff, everything, all the money that goes into either getting the website better or getting more information, or all of that goes to the actual charity. Even all the retreats I do, the money just goes in. That's maybe something I'm going to change in the future. I don't want a lot of employees and all the stress that brings. I've been there, seen it and done it.
Yeah.
I certainly think we can bring people on to do great things, maybe help with the video, the quality of the video content, and we can pay them for it. And what I definitely do want is I want a place where people can come and learn about their amazing bodies.
Yeah.
How they can heal themselves.
Yeah. No, I love that. I was going to ask you, because obviously that empowering people to improve their own health and the general health trajectory, it involves, you've said, fostering new habits, making, lifestyle changes. And you talked about a few collaborations there. What other kind of innovative kind of approaches, partnerships, collaborations have you, or are you exploring to make, these changes more accessible and sustainable?
Well, I'm looking at festivals, and I'm going to Skye next year as well. Festivals, goddess gatherings, where we get women together, because there's a lot of work to be done there. And so, in-person gatherings, I've been invited to speak at a few festivals. I'm speaking at Connect. I've been invited a couple down south as well. So again, I have to look at managing my time for the greatest impact. Because really for me, I know when I meet people, they get inspired. And it's then, well, what do we do? And it's like, I've always talked about the AA model, calling it Believers Anonymous, the BA model, where if you're trying to get off sugar, hang around with people that aren't eating sugar. If you're trying to get off alcohol, hang around with people that aren't drinking. It's obvious. It's easier, certainly until you become, very secure in your own choices. But and I think the same with healing. If you're like, right, okay, there's maybe 5 families in the estate that are all going, right, come on, let's do this. I'll cook one night, you cook one night. Make it fun. Social interaction with other human beings, eating together. That's what we used to do. It doesn't have, go to a ceilidh, get a brilliant exercise at a ceilidh. Great for the brain. You know what I mean? There's all these things that we can do because we have to be having fun. Telling people to stay in their house and not eat and drink anything that they like is not going to work. Quite simply. We have to, it has to be that level of fun that you get your sense of humour back and realise that we, the people, are absolutely unstoppable when we pull together. And if we're never going to heal Scotland unless we pull together.
Yes, amen to that, indeed. How about, do you fancy some quick fire questions?
Sure.
Should we do a song before we do that? In fact, to tell you what, let's do a song. We'll do 5 quick fire, your last song, and then the last 5. How's that?
Okay, sounds good to me.
Right. Okay, so the 4th song that you chose is a U2 song, Bad. Now, Remind me, what album's this one from? Do you remember?
Well, we were talking, was it the Joshua Tree? But I don't think it was the Joshua Tree. I honestly can't remember. I need to Google that. But no, that was, oh yeah. And I suppose there's an association, isn't there, with good times, having a happy time. And
Yeah.
but I just love that tune. And I think, early U2 was pretty genius as well. Pretty noisy, pretty making a statement, in a very different way, obviously, from Bowie and Freddie, but still sticking his neck out, whether you agree with him or not, and fighting for the people. So
yeah, all very much resonates with you.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's go 5. Let's see what we can do with these. So, most rewarding part of leading the Heal Scotland movement.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of leading the Heal Scotland movement?
Oh, it's the feedback I get from people that keeps me going.
Brilliant. Yeah. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning
person. If you could travel to any country tomorrow, where would you go and why?
Whoa. I'd probably go to Malta to see all my friends out there. Let's see.
Lovely. You spent a lot of time in Malta, didn't you?
I lived
you lived
there
for a while.
Time.
Yeah. It's one on our to-do list. We very nearly went there this year, but ended up going to Madeira. Yes. Favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
Well, my big way right now is getting in my sauna blanket and doing some breath work.
Do you do your breath work in the sauna blanket?
Yep. I like to multitask. I'm a Gemini.
Okay, now there might be something else on this one. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it? Coffee?
I usually just manage one black coffee a day in the morning. I limit myself usually. It's not an exact law, but usually.
Just black coffee. No, I'm taking it. No sugar added. No, I didn't think so. I didn't think we would be having this conversation. And yeah, I'm a 3 sugar lady. I hardly thought so. Okay, last tune. That when I saw the last tune that you've got, it always reminds me of an old friend of my daughter's, who when they were young, she absolutely adored Stevie Nicks, and you've chosen The Edge of 17. There's some soaring vocals in this one, so is it again? There's a theme through all of the songs that you've chosen.
Yeah.
Is it something specifically about her or that song? Or is it again just back to the memories of like?
Well, I was a huge Fleetwood Mac fan, obviously.
Yeah.
Dreams was one of my favourite albums ever. Probably still is. You can still put that on. But this is my dance song. This is another one when you want to get the party started, you get that on, and next thing everybody's up on the floor. And Stevie Nicks was, she was an icon of mine. Again, probably a wee bit of a boundary pusher. I like.
Definitely a theme in all of the 5 songs that you've chosen. Absolutely. So there you go. Now you mentioned just when we were messaging that your family were keen to know. Did you tell them what the songs were? Have they got to listen to this?
No, well, I was I got them to guess. They all guessed.
Okay.
They thought it would be Heroes, David Bowie, because they said David Bowie. They kind of guessed the artist. It was interesting. Yeah. We had a bit of a laugh with that last night, just looking at who they thought I would, pick. So It was interesting. And then I was asking them what they would pick. So yeah, we had a bit of fun with it. It's a fun thing to do when you're sitting around of an evening.
It is. I mean, I love it. I love seeing the songs. I always listen to them. I have been cursed more than a few times by guests who have got in touch with me. And what it seems is the longer I give guests to choose. So if we've lined up somebody to come on and they've got like a month or so, I'll get a message saying, "What have you done to me? I can't limit this to 5 songs." So I'm glad that you enjoyed the process, because that's That's part of it. It's like, you know, I love learning more about the guests that I have on, but also I like to think that they can have a little bit of fun in preparing for it, because it's, you know, as you've seen, very, you know, relaxed, but the music is obviously, I believe, like I think you said right at the beginning there, it's I've turned to music. I listen to music every day. I use it to, you know, to change a mood if I want to, but also I can, you know, proactively, but also I can, you know, just listen to a whole load of things and kind of and go with the flow as equally. But where would we be without music? I think
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
often pondered that in my head. If like if music was taken away, I would be cool with it now, because it's all in here. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
what.
yeah. We would make our own, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last 5 questions, and then I'm going to let you go. I've had a whale of a time. This has been informative. It's been fun, and inspirational. I think I'll tell you again, what you're doing is absolutely wonderful, and I'm absolutely honoured. I really am to be a little part of it. So, oh,
Thank you. That means a lot.
I've just remembered. I'm going to ask you these quick fire, but I've got one closing thing to ask as well. So these are quickly. Number 6 on this. Okay, tell us about a book that has left a lasting impact, and why. I think I might know the answer to this because you
Yeah, well,
mentioned
I
it.
would have to say, you know, because again, I was a bookworm, but the Celestine Prophecy definitely was a
Yeah,
pivotal change in my perception of, you know, who I was.
yeah. I've got a copy of that on my bookshelf. An old boss gave me that about 20 years ago.
Yeah,
It's been
let's,
around a while, isn't it? And it is. It's
yeah, it was.
fascinating.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think I might need to revisit it, because it was the energy stuff amongst it that really kind of lit me up. So, okay, can you tell us about a hobby or passion that you indulge in that not many people know about?
Snowboarding.
Oh, there we go.
I was a major. I did a couple of seasons out in Canada, and yeah, that was really my main huge love was snowboarding. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Oh, that makes my knees kind of twinge a little bit.
I went from skis onto a board, and I think again that whole thing of just like being able to lean and have your arms out and just yeah, freedom, an
Brilliant.
amazing feeling.
Yeah. You could have dinner with any historical figure. Who would it be, and what would you ask them?
Maybe Nelson Mandela.
Oh,
I'd be interested to see how he dealt with being imprisoned. Yeah,
yeah,
how
nice.
he
Oh, I
kept
like
his
that.
faith. Mhm.
Yes. Okay, there's a few things floating around in my head here, but I just want what comes to the forefront of your mind when I ask you to share a quote or a mantra that you live by, both in work and in personal life.
Um, Commit enough daily sins against nature, and you will experience dis-ease.
That's one for our snippets to put out on social media.
Yeah. Hippocrates.
Think about that, people.
Mhm.
And finally, what's the next big dream or goal that you would love to achieve, either with Heal Scotland or on a personal level?
I would love to see the people that are choosing not to have chemo heal themselves. That's been a dream for decades for me, that we can heal the body without toxic treatments. And that's a dream for me personally, and a dream for Heal Scotland as well.
Yeah. And kind of ties into exactly why you started it as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Um, just one last thing before you go, because I had written it in terms of like what's going on in Heal Scotland, and you mentioned the Goddess gatherings. The one thing we didn't talk a lot about, but it's ongoing at the moment, started yesterday, the Heal Scotland August challenge of juices and smoothies. So do you want to just just tell people what that's all about, and how they can get involved?
The message is clear. eat more veggies. That's as simple as that. So juicing and smoothies are a really simple way to do that. A great way if you're busy. So instead of buying a protein shake, you can actually just get your NutriBullet or your Vitamix or your blender, whatever you've got, or even a hand blender, and just mix up, whatever it is you've got. Frozen berries are great because you don't have any waste. And then you can add in any kind of yogurt or avocado or banana, nuts and seeds, so you can just make a real live, dense, nutrient drink for you and your kids. You can add in all sorts of other things as well, superfoods, spirulina, wheatgrass, etc. It's a really good way to sneak stuff in for your kids as well. Juicing, obviously, smoothies and juices are different. Smoothie, you put everything in and you blend it together so you get all the fibre. Juicing, you put it through and all the fibre gets taken out and you get a watery juice. And that's a brilliant healing tool because it allows you to get a ton of digestive enzymes, live enzymes, into the gut. Great way to heal and cleanse. And just again, a pint of that in the morning is going to give you a huge amount of energy and helps. What happens is we get toxic, our pH changes, we create an environment that's more conducive for disease. So the fresh vegetables going in, loads of raw salads, etc. as well. But to sit and eat that, if you've only got 10, 15 minutes at lunch, or it takes time, right? I mean, it's ridiculous, but it does. So you can just blend it all up and drink it down. The big thing I would say is don't put too much fruit in if you're struggling with weight, because you're getting a load of fruit sugars. There's a kind of rule of thumb which is eat your sugars and drink your veggies kind of thing. But you put the odd green apple or bit of pineapple in to make it taste really nice, because you've got to enjoy it. Want to do it.
Fantastic. And if people are interested, Heal Scotland Facebook and YouTube, and you've got your own YouTube channel, Lilia, Letitgo Sinclair, correct?
And there's
anywhere else people can get a hold of you? And
the website. So you'll see all our events. We've got an amazing wild seaweed banquet coming up at the end of August, beginning of September, with Rory McPhee, who's Scotland's amazing seaweed expert. So he's creating an amazing lineup of menu of delicious food for us, and you can come and learn. We'll do some breathwork. We'll be in the river, etc. as well. So there's
lots going on.
You subscribe to our events for free, and you'll get to see what's going on all over with our members and with our own, private retreats, personal retreats as well. All the information's on there. healscotland.com.
Fantastic. Lilia, Letitgo Sinclair, thank you very much for joining me on the JFDI podcast. It's been fantastic. As I said, inspirational. The movement that you wanted to create, that bit of the mission is done and growing.
Yes.
It's continuing to spread the word. I'm on board. I'm fully in, as Mr. Daz Adam would say. As Wim Hof would say, fully in. Can we just close, because it's one thing that I heard you say, and I think it's wonderful. I've actually used it in a few breathing sessions as well. There is no better way to close than to remind people, when you breathe in with the light and
out with the shite.
Lilia, thank you so much for joining me. It's been
thank you so much. It's been great to chat to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Until next time on the JFDI podcast, we shall speak to you next time.